Look where I am, everyone. I'm in my favourite building site dump. But I find it quite inspiring here because it's stripped of anything that we're familiar with. Do you know what I mean? Usually there's a context behind and surrounding our lives and our presentation. This has a rather stripped back, minimal, almost meaningless aspect to it that I think is quite apt given the topic of this conversation. So what I wanted to talk to you about today, my fellow friends and followers and heroes, is the idea of making decisions in life and how complicated it can sometimes be to know what we want, to know what's best for us, to know where we should be living, to know how we should best lead our lives, how we should best construct our lives given the relatively short amount of time we all have on this planet, what careers we should be spending our times with, whether we should be doing things that make us appreciate the beauty of our surroundings, or whether we should be doing things crawling in the dirt, experiencing some hell, and ultimately being rewarded with the joys that come through hardship. I was spurred on to talk about this topic through coming face to face with a lot of the knowledge that I absorbed through these little earpieces in the form of audiobooks, and realizing that we are never going to have some expert, some pundit, some writer, some author, some YouTube personality. We're never going to have one of those people give us everything we need to know about what we should be doing with our own lives, because there's so much information now. In fact, there was already enough information about 500 years ago. So it's only gotten more exponential, the amount of information and stories and ideas that we have that we can glean from other people that can inform what we do. There's so much of it, and it's so conflicting. You've probably experienced this. You listen to one book or you read a book, and in it you come across this really great idea, and you're like, yes, that is how I want to live my life. That makes so much sense. You know, a minimal life in the countryside with a dog and very few responsibilities apart from milking the lamb and eating the local produce in the countryside. That's a great way to live. And then of course you come across another book or another YouTube channel that espouses the need to live among people and building a network and growing your business exponentially and making lots and lots of money and getting on stage and getting out of your shell and extroverting into the community and giving talks and challenging yourself and getting away from nature and getting away from the simple, minimal life. So it's like, okay, great, but you know, you're both intelligent people. You've both told me to do things in entirely different ways. What does that leave me with? Okay, let's go to the next person who espouses a life in the mountains with your sandals on, eating plants all day, which is fine. It's just another way of doing things, and you can't expect to take. I mean, you could probably take little bits and bobs and filter it into your own way of doing things. That's fine, but ultimately it's your decision. It's down to you. It's down to your sense of what's right and wrong for yourself. It's tricky, isn't it? Because I'm, for example, coming across this, and I've been dealing with this conflict for, I think, 2 months now. The conflict is whether I stay in Georgia, which is a country in Eastern Europe, close to Turkey and Russia, where I am right now, and do my coaching and stuff remotely, and do a lot of my business can be done remotely, which is great. But then, of course, that comes at the sacrifice of not being able to have access to a bigger market in London, and being able to meet my clients face to face, and being able to give workshops and talks more easily, and being able to go to events and more cultural things in London. But in Georgia, I'd be able to do a lot of that remotely and have access to the mountains here and the hiking and the camping, and grow myself in other ways. So there's this constant conflict, and every day I'm changing my mind. And if you want to give me some ideas on what the hell I should do, let me know. But it just came to my mind as a good example of how difficult it can be to decide on what to do. And of course, we just ultimately need to make a bloody decision. That's part of the answer. That's part of the solution, is just to say, this is what I'm going to do. But I wanted to speak to myself as much as to you in this whole making decisions complexity that we're faced with more and more. It's a very difficult. It's just getting harder and harder to make decisions. I don't know, maybe it's just me. One of the things I find very useful is the idea that if in doubt, choose the harder option. Choose the option that is going to challenge you more, but not in the sense that you'll just have a horrible life and you're going to be sitting in misery all day. It means take the avenue that brings you a little bit more anxiety, because it's going to lead to becoming a stronger person, basically. It's down to self-growth, because we can't get away from that. Happiness springs from the sensation that your body, your mind is hardening, is not hardening, but you know what I mean, growing. It's stretching, it's opening up. That's where happiness is going to come from, for the most part. In my case, both routes are going to lead to self-growth in different ways, so that's why it's complicated. But I'm leaning overall to move to London because this is what leads me to the next thing, which is choose the more challenging route, because it's going to lead to more self-growth, i.e. more happiness. B, think about this interesting quote I came across recently by Robert Bly, who said that it is in the wound of a man, something along these lines, it is in a man's wound where one finds genius. It is in your greatest hardships, your deepest scars, your most painful wounds in your life experience, where you will find the source of your genius. In other words, it is very often, maybe not in every case, but very often when you see people who have really triumphed in life and you follow their backstory, it's usually because they have addressed something that has caused them a lot of anguish, and they have resolved at some point in their life to not only get over it and accept what happened, but to double down on getting better at dealing with it and becoming a genius at understanding and inhabiting and being very intimate with those wounds, with those pains. Which got me thinking, so in my case, my pains were my crippling shyness at school, although I wasn't a complete zombie. It's just one of those things, just being bullied for shyness, which affected me. And really deep, further than that, it was really about me not showing my full self. And I talked about this in other videos about the shadow, which I recommend you watch. My inability to really come out of my shell affected me in many ways. It just made me, because I knew that my true self was an entertainer, and a communicator and a contributor, and I knew that I was letting myself down and I wasn't fulfilling my full potential. So that caused tremendous wounds in me, which led to all kinds of anxieties and other problems in life. So that is a good example of a wound that might be worth becoming better at and dealing with, rather than running away from. And I think as long as we run away from healing our wounds, we're never going to be truly whole. I know that sounds brutal, but we're never probably going to feel as if we're reaching our full potential, or slipping into our full potential, if we don't address those wounds. So that's another good indicator as to what might be a good path for you. So trauma can lead to all kinds of incredible energy. It can lead to you, once you realize that it's something to pursue and to bring awareness around and help other people fix in the same way that you had to overcome it. They say that the best way to heal, to deal with your own problems, is to teach others how to get over the same issue. So that's kind of where I'm thinking of going. I want to develop my skills in doing all this stuff, and it's not about narcissism. It's really about becoming a better person, so that I can help you guys do similar things, and also reach your goals and whatever else comes through all this stuff I'm blabbering on about. But those are two things that will help you potentially understand what it is that is worth pursuing. Think about where you've been hurt in your life and how you could confront those areas of your life, those areas of your past, and incorporate it into your decisions, into your careers. It might, if you're a painter, I always go back to the painting example, but I don't think it means completely changing career paths, but I think it means it helps clarify what your next steps might be in terms of how you could bring in these things. A lot of the best art, for example, is made out of people's pains, out of expressing people's shadows, people's dark sides that have come out of the wounds they've suffered. So think about that and how that can inform how you create and where, what you do with your life. Excuse the shakiness. I think this is quite a cool little venue. It's very raw. But the topic is fairly raw. So to summarize, making decisions on what is best for us is complicated, because we cannot rely on external knowledge so much. We can only really rely on our gut and ideas like what is challenging, what is the source of our own growth, and maybe it's worth confronting our deepest wounds as a source of power and potential genius. How might that manifest for you guys? And if you have any thoughts on what I should do, should I live in Georgia or should I live in London, given what I've shared, you guys? Would love to hear your thoughts. Do subscribe. Hit the bell notification button if you're on YouTube to make sure you get these. And I'd love to get a dialogue going with you guys. So leave a comment and I will see you in the next video.